It's cracked down on illegal immigrant truck drivers following a series of awful, deadly crashes that took the lives of many people across several states.
SWAT teams and federal agents just swarmed warehouses across 5 states to dismantle a criminal empire that most people never knew existed. It all started when a state trooper noticed something off about a truck's logs during a sub-zero Minnesota night. That single stop led to the arrest of 83 Somali nationals who were operating a secret fleet inside a trusted company.
It's the largest takedown of a New York City-based drug trafficking operation in 30 years.
They were not just moving freight. They were moving $85 million in cash and crates of illegal weapons. The FBI discovered a smart system that used our own highways to fund activities halfway across the world. Traffic stop turned crisis. At 4:19 in the morning on a frozen stretch of Highway 52 in southern Minnesota, a semi-truck carrying the logo of a major regional carrier slowed to the shoulder. The road was dark, nearly empty, and locked in the deep stillness that comes with 30 below zero temperatures. To the passing cars, this looked like a standard seasonal safety inspection. This is the kind of check conducted thousands of times every winter across the upper Midwest. There were no sirens, there was no pursuit. The driver pulled over calmly, the air brakes hissing in the cold silence. On the surface, it was simply a routine check to keep icy highways safe. But as the state trooper began the technical inspection, the atmosphere shifted. The logs did not match the load. The weight distribution was off. And when inspectors drilled into the sidewall of the trailer, they did not hit insulation. They hit a hidden room running the entire length of the truck frame. Inside were vacuum-sealed packages of cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl stacked with great care. At that moment, the officers thought they had caught a single smuggler. They were wrong. As they held the driver and began to check the vehicle, the suspect did not ask for a lawyer. He asked for a deal. The information he gave federal agents in the next hour would turn a traffic stop into a national security crisis. He was not working alone. He was part of a ghost fleet. This was a group of 83 drivers operating inside one of the Midwest's most trusted trucking companies. They used identical modified trailers and drove fixed routes through 5 states. The news does not stop on this holiday week as federal agents began arresting more than 100 people during a massive sweep. This targeted truck companies and had moved over $85 million in untraceable cash out of the United States. What agents found on Highway 52 was not just a substance bust, it was the discovery of a parallel shipping network that had weaponized America's supply chain against itself. To understand how a criminal empire hides inside an 18-wheeler, you have to look at the company on the door, North Star Hauling. For years, North Star was considered a pillar of the regional economy. They moved goods, building materials, and heating supplies across Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, South Dakota, and Illinois. Their trucks were a common sight on the interstate, but the investigation started by the Highway 52 stop revealed that North Star was not just one company, it was 2. Federal investigators discovered a specific group of employees, 83 drivers, mostly Somali nationals, who worked under a completely different set of rules than the rest of the workers. While regular drivers followed demand and changed routes based on weather and fuel costs, these 83 men followed strict, unchangeable paths. They drove the same roads, stopped at the same spots, and worked almost only at night. The smart part of the operation was in its camouflage. They were not hiding in unmarked vans. They were hiding in plain sight, driving the same branded trucks as legal employees. This is what military planners call parallel shipping. They use the cover of legal business, moving pallets of food or steel, to mask the movement of substances and weapons in the false walls of their trailers. But the physical movement of substances was only half the operation. The money tracking team uncovered a laundering system that shocked the experts. North Star Hauling was not just moving freight, it was a financial pipeline. Customs and Border Protection used new technology to help find threats and break up criminal networks. Investigators linked the company's ownership to a web of fake companies with no clear business purpose. Funds did not flow through traditional banks. They moved through informal transfer networks that were untraceable and broken into small parts. Over a 3-year period, more than $85 million was transferred out of the United States to accounts in East Africa and the Middle East. The discovery of the hidden truck rooms was only the beginning of a much darker story. Inside North Star Hauling. Basically, the way they moved the money was just as smart as the way they moved the substances. The transfers were made to look like small family payments broken down into amounts that would not trigger federal alerts. But when added up, the data showed a river of cash leaving the American Midwest. This money was funding operations that had nothing to do with trucking, and the most scary part was how they used the weather as a tool. Analysts found that the network's activity jumped during the coldest months of winter. They knew that during snowstorms and freezing cold, police resources are sent to help with accidents and public safety. Roadside inspections drop a lot because it is simply too dangerous to keep officers outside for long. The group had turned the Minnesota winter into a strategic advantage. They moved their largest shipments when the police were too busy fighting the ice to fight the crime. By the time federal agencies connected the dots, they realized that a slow response would fail. If they arrested one driver, the rest would disappear. The network would run and the money would vanish. The decision was made at the highest levels of the government. They would not take them down one by one. They would take them down all at once. The operation was named Northern Breaker. Across 5 states, tactical teams, FBI agents, and federal units began moving. They positioned units outside freight spots in Chicago, warehouses in Minneapolis, and transfer hubs in Sioux Falls. The goal was total control. They needed to secure the trucks, freeze the accounts, and arrest every member of the Ghost Fleet in a single-time strike. But according to the FBI, there are likely hundreds of dangerous truck drivers on our roads who have never been caught. Many of them have driven across the country and have left a trail of trouble behind them. As the sun set on the eve of the operation, the Midwest was hit by another winter storm. But this time, the federal agents were not pulling back from the cold. They were waiting in it. The storm hitting the Midwest was not a problem. It was the signal. Federal planners knew that the Ghost Fleet worked most during bad weather, using the snow to hide their moves. Tonight, the network was fully active. Dozens of trucks were on the road, pushing north toward the Canadian border and south towards hubs in Chicago. At 2 in the morning, the command center gave the green light. Operation Northern Breaker was live. This was not a standard police raid where a single team hits a single house. This was a timed takedown across an area larger than France. In Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, South Dakota, and Illinois, tactical teams began to move. On Interstate 94, a group of 3 North Star trucks was battling heavy snow. They thought the flashing lights behind them were just snowplows. They were wrong. A line of police cars and unmarked federal SUVs surrounded the 18-wheelers and forced them onto the frozen shoulder. The drivers had no idea that their secret routes were being watched from above. Laundering the Midwest dry. The drivers did not even have time to reach for their radios. By the time the air brakes locked, tactical officers were already climbing the truck steps with weapons ready. There was no talking. The drivers were pulled out into the cold wind and zip-tied against the icy road. At the same time, the main attack was happening at North Star Hauling's main office in Minneapolis. An armored truck smashed through the fence, followed by many FBI teams. They were not there to hand out papers. They were there to secure a crime scene that covered 3 acres. Flashbangs went off in the loading bay, stopping the night shift workers in their tracks. Federal agents yelled for everyone to get down. As agents searched the building, they realized how complex the operation really was. In the office, they did not find normal shipping software. They found a double system. Some might think this is just about making money off tobacco, but it is not. It is organized crime. One screen showed the legal freight like food and wood. The other screen, which was locked and only for a few people, tracked the Ghost Fleet. It showed the real-time spots of the 83 specific trucks in the plot. It tracked payment plans that had nothing to do with shipping rates. It was the brain of a shadow company working inside a legal one. But the physical evidence in the warehouse was even worse. In one bay, investigators found a trailer getting fixed. Panels had been pulled away, showing the secret behind the network. The truck frame had been changed with moving false walls. To a normal person or a standard X-ray, the trailer looked empty or full of legal goods. But behind the false wall was a hidden space that could hold 1,100 pounds of illegal items. In this truck, the space was not empty. Agents pulled out box after box. First came the substances, bricks of fentanyl wrapped in special paper to hide from police dogs. Then came the cash, stacks of vacuum-sealed money ready to be sent away. And finally, they found the weapons. Boxes labeled as machine parts were opened to show rifle parts and high-capacity clips. This confirmed the scariest part of the case. The network was not just bringing substances in, they were moving weapons out. The shipping chain worked in both directions. While the main office fell, the trap was closing across the Midwest. In Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a repair shop that was actually a transfer hub was raided. Inside, they found safes with millions in cash and books showing money sent to East Africa. In Chicago, a truck parked at a quiet lot was surrounded. The driver tried to run on foot but was caught by a police dog. Inside his cab, agents found a satellite phone and a map with drop spots that had no link to any legal delivery route. By 5 in the morning, the reports were coming back to the center. The number of arrests was huge. All 83 drivers were caught. The workers in the office were held. The mechanics who built the false walls were in handcuffs. Even with the drivers in jail, the trail of money led to someone much bigger. The final shutdown. North Star Hauling, a company that had worked for years as a respected carrier, basically stopped existing before the sun came up. The immediate effect on the economy was a mess. Thousands of legal shipments were stuck. Food routes were broken. Heating fuel was late. The shutdown of a major carrier sent shockwaves through the region. This proved just how deep the criminal group had buried itself into the economy. But for the federal agents standing in the freezing cold, looking at the mountain of substances and guns, it was worth it. They had just cut a major line of global crime. As the money experts began to look through the seized computers, they realized that the $85 million was just the tip of the iceberg. The financial web did not just end in East Africa, it looped back into the U.S. banking system in ways that tied in people much more powerful than truck drivers. By the time the sun rose, the main office was a frozen crime scene. Federal agents were marking evidence in the snow. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash, boxes of weapon parts, and enough substances to flood the whole area. But the most important find was in the server room. As experts unlocked the drives, the full scale of the betrayal was clear. The $85 million was a low guess. The Ghost Fleet was the engine of a global money-moving plan. The book showed a network of fake companies that only existed on paper. These companies with normal names were used to hide the illegal profits before they were sent out of the country. The money did not go to normal banks. It went into a secret system that moves value without moving physical cash. This makes it almost impossible to follow once it leaves the country. The goal of these funds was East Africa and the Middle East. This was not just a substance ring, it was a foreign operation using American roads to fund things far away. Federal authorities froze every bank account and seized every vehicle across 5 states. A total of 55,000 pounds of illegal tobacco was found, worth over $6 million. Other substances and 15 guns were also taken. Things get even crazier when you realize how long this was happening right under our noses. Could there be more ghost fleets on our roads right now? What do you think is the biggest threat to our highways today? Hands down, this is the most complex case we have seen in years. If you want to see more investigations like this, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel.